Okay, for strategy now, I want to talk about some startups who are actually doing the development process correctly. Most young entrepreneurs have decided it's not a good idea to depend on lies and deceit in order to build their company. They would like to have a company that lasts into the future with respect and functionality without the inevitable legal headaches that are going to come when you try to deceive the public. I honestly cannot believe that an organization such as Theranos could have thought they could get away with it for very much longer than they did. It's psychopath behavior. But there is no shortage of medical startups that are actually, maybe they're not going to change the world or disrupt an entire industry, but they are trying to participate on a $1 million level and not a $1 billion level, which is much more wonderful than the lives that most people are living. So why not? It doesn't have to be, an epic shift. There's Tango Belt, for instance. Tango Belt is a belt that's wearable for people who have, for instance, fragile hips, or perhaps they have a recent hip injury. We do know that elderly people, when they receive hip injuries, it's usually a very ominous sign about the lifespan that they have before them. A broken hip can spell the end of someone's life quite often. It has such an effect on your medical physical reality, and just, I think probably your emotional outlook towards life too. It's debilitating. It'll put you in that chair probably for the rest of your life. The Tango Belt is something that can protect against this. They received $2.5 million of funding in 2019, and there's a lot of promise around the product that they're developing. I highly recommend you look into it if you know somebody who needs a little bit more protection than normal. Emulate Therapeutics is another one. They received $200,000 of development of funding. They are the developers of radio-frequency-based devices for treatments of cancer. So this $200,000 is probably almost exclusively for testing. They're able to contract with owners of larger machines. They're able to do some basic prototyping. They're able to have some money for legal. They're able to have a little bit of money, perhaps, for marketing. But I'm guessing with this amount of funding, they're not at marketing yet. They're just trying to get the prototype off the ground. This would definitely be early stage funding. Access 360. Also in 2019, they received $150,000 of funding. They are a provider of orthopedic and spinal medical products. It's not hard to understand why they want to do it and what types of products there might be. We're talking about lumbar support, maybe back braces, maybe some, with $150,000 of funding, they're probably not even electrical devices. They're probably mostly supports of different sorts. So they'll be in their prototyping stage as well. With $150,000, they'll be able to establish their basic legal. They probably had that established before they got funding, or they wouldn't have gotten it. But probably funding, the development stage, the prototyping, testing, this sort of thing. Autological Technologies, they have undisclosed funding. Again, they're 2019. Developer of AI-enabled diagnostic device for detecting ear diseases. So they have picked a very specific problem to address. But if they can solve the problem, you're looking at $1 billion. It's almost like this with any medical truth. Now, obviously, some of these were very early stage, so we're looking at 10 years of development in front of us. Think about what that founder is experiencing. Probably not with early stage, $150,000, $200,000 of funding. You're probably not taking a regular paycheck out of this, but they're one step closer. If they can do anything successful with it, another series of funding can follow, maybe from the same people. Maybe those same people would know more advanced investors. So it's like the more people you can bring in on this project, the more people they're going to know. Word of mouth is a big deal when it comes to funding because you're not going to advertise. The people who are offering you funding may wish to keep your idea secret as much as possible. So there's this as well. Word of mouth matters. So I just want to point out that these are just some examples of medical innovations that don't have to be billion-dollar innovations. You don't need $1 billion to be happy in the world, and there's a lot of happiness that comes from developing one of these kind of projects and seeing them work. Knowing that you're helping people live better lives is just as rewarding as the money, I'm sure. I suppose it depends on where you are in life right now, but people want to be appreciated by the world that they live in. So that's strategy now, just some examples of other people's strategies that are being used. I think the basic framework of it is determine a problem, understand how the problem is currently being solved, and try to brainstorm around new ways to address that same problem, maybe by using the same indicators, same markers, in a new way. So good luck.